Hi everybody, I'm Justin with Main Man Bassing. In this video, I'm breaking out the big baits, two of my all-time favorite baits to throw. We're in the fall here in Maine. Well, some of this is like kind of late summerish, but some of it's kind of fall. And this video is for the haters because anytime anybody sees me with this baits, they tell me I'm crazy. They're like, what are you doing? You don't know how to fish. You're never going to catch anything with those baits. The fact is I've caught some of my biggest bass, and you're going to see some of what these baits can really do as far as like bringing in the size of the fish. I will show them to you at the end, and I'll go over the equipment. For right now, I just want to kindly ask you to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you find it helpful or interesting. I do product reviews, fishing adventures, and how-to videos. Alright, so let's get to the content, and I'll see you at the end to discuss the equipment and the baits. Alright, enjoy.
Holy Lord, this is a big bass. Sir, a big bass. Bye, big girl. She tore up my thumb. Wow, shallow, dude. So shallow. So big bass, too. It's a big old bass. Yeah. Gosh, they're so shallow right now. Dudes, this is a giant bass. This is a giant bass. Bye, babe. bass. Woo! Yes, sir. Let this guy go. He's up there shallow.
The first lure I'm going to show you was the BBZ Rat 50. It's a 5-inch body. I think with a tail it's like 8, 9 inches, 10 inches even maybe. This was designed by Bill Siementhal, is manufactured by Spro. Bill Siementhal is no longer a Spro Pro, and these are not in production. There are still some on Amazon, and there's a chance that there will be, so look in the description box. There's a chance that Akuma will start picking these up. I hope so. This lure is a fish magnet, and you saw that fish that I brought in with it by the trees, by the laydown. Like, that's just one of 20 or 30 bass I've caught that big on this lure. Like, this lure is phenomenal. It's a floater. It floats. It's got a segmented body, right? That tail goes back and forth. It's got a bill, square bill. It does crank, but I don't like cranking. I like, unless if it's really windy. Okay, if it's super windy, I might crank it. But for the most part, I leave it on the top, and it creates a nice natural V-wake. A lot of noise. And it's just big, and it just draws those big fish out, dude. And it's just, you put this thing near a structure, and if there are bass in the area, like, pew, it's a fish magnet. It's really dynamite. It's amazing. So I'll link these up. Hopefully Akuma will start carrying them again. I still think there's still a few Spros on Amazon, so check the description box. You need to throw this. This thing's like 1.5 ounces, I think, somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. I don't know the exact weight. It's a little heavy. I have an 8-foot extra heavy rod with, I think it's 18-pound mono and an older Shimano Corrado 300E. So it's a bigger size, really. You need heavy duty gears. You need a strong pull to be able to throw this thing. And you need to balance it all to make sure that you have a good hookup ratio. But you keep those hooks sharps. Those are size 1 hooks. Gamakatsu size 1. You get your setup, and that's the thing, is like, most people don't really have a setup that big. But I'm telling you, dude, if there's one lure you want, it's that lure. It's that Rat 50. All throughout the year, you'll catch bass. You'll hammer bass. You'll hammer bass with that. All right, so check the description box, and if that setup. Like, that setup is specific. That's the only lure I use on that rod and reel, and it's expensive, right? Like, the reel was like $300, the rod was $150, the line's $20 or $30, and the lure was like $30. But I don't care, because I've caught hundreds of big bass with that lure. Hundreds, literally hundreds of big bass with that lure. So it's worth every penny, and to fish it exclusively. Okay, next lure. It is, be careful here, again, was a Spro swim bait 80, right? BBZ swim bait 80, 8-inch swim bait. There's a floater, a slow sink, and a fast sink. This is a slow sink, and it sinks 3 feet every 1 second. The fast sink sinks 3 feet every 1 second. Just dynamite, dude. Dynamite. And you have to make sure these hooks are really sharp if you're going to go out and get this. There's a couple left on Amazon. I'll link them up. Again, if he comes to Akuma, I mean, when Bill comes to Akuma, I'm hoping they'll put these back in production, because these things, right, so there's a lot of plastic, so there's a lot of areas that bass can miss. So the way I describe it is, you know, you can search for bass, and you throw this kind of a little bit away from structure. It's not really a great cast, right? And you're bringing it towards the dock, or you're bringing it towards the laydown, right? But you're kind of off. The big bass will come up. They get so curious because it makes such a loud noise when it comes down and it's so big and it's so lifelike, it swims really well in the water. They'll come up, they'll shoot up towards it. But a lot of times, if you're not finesse fishing, if you're not right tight on that structure or cover, they'll just come up and they'll like bull rush it, right? And then swim away from it. A lot of times they'll just slap it. A lot of times they'll just poke it, right? But if you start finessing this and throwing it right tight into cover and structure, and like if you have a piling, right, and you bring it like almost touching that piling and there's some shadow and some grass, man, like they'll strike this thing viciously. Like they will hammer this thing, right? There's still a lot that can go wrong because there's so much plastic. So the hookup, it's not as great as the rat, but one thing is you see the bass, right? And so you can see if they're bass in the area, and that's where I think the true beauty of in this lure is that the bass show themselves. So you can see, and the big bass show themselves. They come right up to it, dude. They are so territorial, they just come right up to it and they look at it, and you can be like, all right, yeah, there's a bass in this area. And you might not be able to catch it then, but you can put a waypoint down and then you can come back later and maybe go, you know, pitch and flip or something a little more traditional if they're not biting this. But they will strike it, man, and especially if you finesse it and you set it up right where you cast past the structure or the cover, bring it as close as you can to it, almost bounce it off the structure, bring it through the cover, you'll get some nasty, vicious strikes on some big bass, dude. Big bass with these. All right, so, and this I throw, again, on an 8-foot, extra heavy, either 21 pound or 25 pound. I think it might be 21 pound for monofilament. And this is a Shimano Corrado 400B, right? So again, like an expensive setup that's pretty exclusive. Like I throw basically just the fast sink. I troll with the fast sink, and I fish the shallows with the slow sink, right? And so it's exclusive, it's expensive. Like when I bought the 400B years ago, it was like $350 it's not as much now, but it was like $350. The pole was $150, the line was expensive, and the lure was like $35-40. So it was expensive, but one is the bass show themselves, so you know if there's bass in the area. And when they're committed to the big bait, which they can be, and you can convince them to be, they strike it viciously, right? So you know if the bass are in the area, and a lot of times you can get a good strike on it. You get a good strike, you don't always get a good hookup because there's so much plastic, but it's still just a dynamite lure, one of my favorite lures to throw. I will link these up. There's only, like I said, because they were formerly with Spro, so there's only a couple on Amazon, but if they're come back into production, check the links out, okay? Just check those links out if you're interested. All right, and I'll put the equipment down there too. I don't want to keep rambling on. Thank you for watching. Like the channel if it meant something to you. Subscribe if you're into fishing. I'd love to have you. We're coming up on winter, man. You got a couple more weeks of fall. I hope everyone has a great rest of their fishing season. Okay? Thank you. Bye.